Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good however you are. This is episode 50
Can you believe
of
it?
Rock the Cash. I cannot. I absolutely cannot. When you called me in March to say, hey, let's do a podcast, I never would have believed that as we're recording this on the second to last day of the foul year of our Lord, 2020, we would have 50 of these things in the can.
I know. We really hit it hard this summer doing 2 episodes a week. And then when that got crazy, we're like, hold off. But that's how we got 50 episodes in the short amount of time that we've been doing this. And I'm pretty proud of us.
Me too. I'm thrilled with it. It's really, I'm really pleased with it. It makes me happy. So it does. And I hope you're happy too out there. Barflies in listener land, episode 50. How did you spend your 2020? I feel like everybody should be doing like a weird recap.
Are you talking to me?
Or just to anybody in general, just out into the echo.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, this podcast is how I tried to stay sane in 2020, really.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else I would have done. Just focus on raising my kid better, but that's not fun.
Yeah, there's no need for that. They practically raise themselves.
They got it.
He's 7 now. He knows where the Legos are. He knows where the Legos are. He knows where the ice cream is. He's good.
Yeah.
Let him run around a bit. Hey, this is going to be a strange episode because it's just you and I.
I love it. Back to the way it began.
And it's going to be a weird one too, because we're doing one of your favorite bands and one of mine too. We're doing the Toadies.
Yeah. This is when I started this podcast, I wanted to do this song immediately, but I'm glad that we've waited and got a little better at this. Got a little more practice in, because this song and the album that this song is from means a lot to me. So I want to do it right.
Yeah, me too. I was really worried about doing this song up front because I like, that as you do anything, you slowly get better at it. And I was really worried because this song has some sexual imagery to it, some violent sexual imagery to it. And I didn't, we just gone into quarantine and I didn't want to be talking about delicate issues and broadcasting them out to the world without having some idea of what I'm doing. I still don't have any idea what I'm doing, I should hasten to point out. But nevertheless, we're going to talk about Tyler by the Toadies.
Yes.
Tyler, I'm getting naked. The Toadies are a band from Dallas, Fort Worth. They formed in the late 80s in absolute classic fashion. They're a group of record store employees that got together and made a band, which I love. Like, it makes you think. You ever see the movie High Fidelity with John Cusack?
Yes.
I love that movie. I absolutely love it. But that's what I like. I didn't know anything really about the Toadies other than I like their music until I started doing some research. But their origin story is just so charming to me.
Yeah.
Like, they're led by this guy named Todd Lewis. David Todd Lewis. He's got
Vaden
Todd
Which
Lewis,
is funny because I have an old uncle named Vaden. It's a very East Texas name. I love it.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard that name before. I guess it must be probably like Czechoslovakian or
I brought it up to Corbin when we were throwing around names for Charlie, and I really wanted it because it's a family name, and Corbin said no. He's like, they're gonna call him Darth Vaden. Like, he didn't like it. I lost that one.
I was really hoping that Corbin's family had some real, pardon the pun, some real dark Vaden in the past. No. We don't talk about your Uncle Vaden. It took 35 sheriff's deputies to take him down. Let's never speak of him again. The Simpsons. That's where I stole that line from. I apologize.
Corbin probably got it. He's seen every episode.
Has he got every episode memorized?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can't hang out with Corbin's family because all they do is speak in Simpsons and Seinfeld references. And I'm like, I didn't watch every episode like you guys. I'm lost.
That's fantastic. I can do half of that. I can't do Seinfeld because I was too young for Seinfeld. Like, when that was on in the late 90s, I was only 17, 18. So the problems of 35-year-old New Yorkers were just beyond me.
Yeah. I mean, Corbin's younger sister can do it. They watched the reruns. They were very in it. We're going to lose track. Let's get back to the Toadies.
They're a group of record store employees, and they're basically headed up by Todd Lewis, who sounds like he is the head record store geek. And it's super charming because they released an EP in Dallas in the early 90s, like the peak grunge era, when all the record labels were running around looking for the next Nirvana and the next Pearl Jam. And there was a brief minute where they thought that they'd found it in Dallas when the Toadies and the old 97s got signed to major label deals. The Toadies got signed to Interscope.
Yeah.
And this is where Todd Lewis gets like super charming, because you think, reading the story, I figured, well, this is going to be when a young man gets arrogant. Like, what 20-year-old record store clerk who gets signed to Interscope isn't going to go absolutely bananas?
Yeah.
Just completely apeshit. He doesn't do that at all.
Nope.
He just puts the band together. He records the album. They take him to this great studio in Northern California, and he's leaving with like the whole group of employees for this record store. So he goes to the guy who owns the record store and he says, "We're not quitting. We're just leaving for 6 or 8 months. We're going to go record the album, and then the label is obligated to put us on a tour or a couple of tours, and then we're going to fuck that up. We're going to crap out of this, and we'll all be back to work for you in 6, 8 months. Does that sound like a deal? You got a deal? Deal." And then off they go. Like, no drugs, no cars, no fast women, no, not just this is the way the music business works.
Pure humility and security. I love it.
Yeah. You showed me that documentary of the Toadies going off to record in California, and they're shooting with must be like a, you know, an 8mm camcorder or something like that in the back of the van that they're traveling off with, and it really looks like every road trip I took with my friends in my early 20s. Like, no rock star trappings, no black leather, no dark sunglasses, just dudes in t-shirts sitting in the van.
Texas boys hanging out on a road trip. Yeah. It's very familiar. That's what I love about the Toadies. Everything about it is so familiar. I have family in East Texas. The stories they tell and everything on Rubberneck, it just feels so familiar. And it's another reason why I like it so much.
Because it's like straight up folk music. Like, their biggest hit was Possum Kingdom,
right?
Which is Possum Kingdom Lake is it's like a man-made lake, as I understand it. I've never been there myself, but now it's a resort. So it's sort of like a spring breaky 4th of July barbecue, kind of, you know, get drunk on a pontoon boat, do some tubing, that kind of thing. Flash your boobs, that sort of place. You know what I mean? Like, it's inflatable, it's getting drunk, it's dropping acid with the Ren. It's that kind of place. But he wrote their big hit, Possum Kingdom, another creepy little tune about decide to walk with me around the lake tonight. Behind the boathouse, I'll show you my dark secret. So it's kind of horny and kind of murdery.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to that. I mean, there's no way to talk about just Tyler without talking about Possum Kingdom, without also talking about I Burn. So we're gonna talk about all of it. We're gonna get there.
Like, we're gonna break down the whole Rubberneck album before it's all said and done.
To me, Rubberneck and the Toadies, it's like this perfectly gift wrapped little bow of the songs and the things that Charlie's bus is coming. No, it's not. We're all I feel like Rubberneck has a little bow on top of it because what he's inspired by were the same things I was inspired by. Like, they start off the album with just a track that's just music, which is a nod to Reverend Horton Heat, who I love. And then the beginning of Tyler sounds like a Pixies song. And then one of the songs, Mr. Love, I was like, this sounds like Ministry, like what Ministry was doing at that same time. It's like, it's everything that I loved about 90s music in one band. And I love Todd Lewis's voice. So I just get giddy talking about it.
Yeah, it's like, it's everything that a 90s music store clerk would love about music in the 90s, just like all thrown together. It was weird. As I was like researching the Toadies and listening to them, I was thinking, like, this reminds me a hell of a lot of like Quentin Tarantino, like the video store clerk who just saw every single movie and just grabbed all of those influences and molded them into his own thing.
Yeah.
You know, there's plenty of critics who say, well, this is derivative or it sounds like everyone else. And then there's a whole millions of people who just go, yeah, but it's fantastic. I love it. It's
really good.
So you picked Tyler to do. Should we hop into the lyrics?
Yeah. Okay. So let's do this. Okay. So Tyler, a lot of people think they know what Tyler's about. And then, you know, luckily we got to listen. Everybody who's into the Toadies, you have to go to the YouTube and watch Dark Secrets. It's the kind of documentary about Rubberneck where he basically it's a Rock the Cash Bar dream where he just goes in and explains exactly what he was thinking when he wrote every single song on it. So we get to hear exactly what he says it's about, but without knowing that, let's go through these lyrics and talk about how they read off the paper and how it made us feel when we first heard it. And then we'll get to what it's really about.
I really like the way this song is put together. Anyway, here we go. Tyler by the Toadies. Everybody knows this one. Everybody my age knows this one. And she runs through her days with a smile on her face. And she runs and she waits. And I wait. That's a nice opening.
Yeah. There's a happy girl he's been watching.
Yeah, but it's got like it's like a Stephen King kind of opening of the novel feel to it. Like, who are these people? What are they up to? I love the "and I wait" on the end of that one. It just builds such tension. And I was thinking, like, I didn't look it up, but I love it when novels or songs or really anything opens with "and" or "but" or something like that. Those words that you're not supposed to begin things with, because like that's an extended phrase. I think the phrase is like "in media res," like when a movie opens, like in the middle of an action scene and and kind of like out of context. I think that's what it's called. This is like a song that opens that way. And she runs through her days with a smile on her face, and she runs and she waits. And I wait.
And I mean, you can just see the and I wait. You're like, oh, this guy's not up to any good. We find out immediately he's not up to any good.
Yeah, but it's fast. Like when you what I like about breaking down songs is you kind of I kind of treat them like stories or like movies. And if you have that first verse, like you've established it pretty well. Like, okay, this guy who has such a masculine voice, like this guy is watching this woman. What's she running towards? What's she running away from? Why is she smiling? Why is she running through all her days? Is this like a drug problem? Is this she just lives at high speeds? Like there's just so many options for like where can the story go from here?
Yeah.
And of course the "and I wait" just building the tension right in the middle of it. We can drive to any place, day and night, to cross this state. Let's take a minute to do some Texas bragging. He's clearly talking about Texas. There's no other state, possible exception of Alaska, that it takes days to drive across.
Yes.
Anyway.
And end up in Mexico.
And end up in Mexico.
Days, and you still end up in Mexico. Yeah. Yeah.
And in the morning, into Mexico, we will wake up. This is what I mean when I was saying that the Toadies kind of strike me as like they're a rock band, but this is Texas folk music.
Yeah.
Like they're talking about like really, really local things and things that you can only do there. Like the long drive and then waking up in Mexico is very much a Texas in your 20s thing to do.
Did you do that? Did you ever do that drive to Matamoros or whatever to get some free or illegal here drugs?
No, I didn't. I narrowly avoided being pressured into being a drug mule in San Diego once.
Nice.
I was doing a show with, they'll remain nameless, partly because I don't want to name them, and secondly because it'll sound like name dropping. But I got real lucky, and I was on a show with a couple of very big stand-ups at the time, just opening for him, just doing like, and I mean like doing nothing, like 6 minutes up front, just getting facing forward, like that kind of thing. So I'm there, and obviously I was just happy to be there. So one of the guys was just like, well, I mean, we're not going to pay you much, but obviously you're feeling pretty good to be here. So you're going to have to be the one to go down to Mexico and get us the drugs. It's just the way it works. You're the MC. You're the MC drug mule. That's the slash. That's your job title. Get in the car. Get down there.
You're like, okay.
I don't wanna. I just don't wanna.
I don't want to.
It's impossible to do the chorus because the chorus is just a couple of words, but it's that great big yeah. You wanna do it?
No. My voice is gonna crack.
Your big throaty Toadies.
I sang it so hard. So this morning I was at our ranch, which is in Columbus, Texas, which is like 2 hours away from where we are now. It's not East Texas. It's the Gulf Coast entering the hill country, but I was driving from the hill country to Houston, and I sang the entire album of Rubberneck and a little bit of Heretics all the way here. So
you're in the Toadies zone.
I was in the zone.
So that's like the beginning of the song. It's like the song kind of works in 2 acts. That's sort of the close of the first act, which is very romantic. Like, doesn't it seem like the guy's very attentive to her? She runs, she waits, and he waits, right?
Yeah.
It's you can drive to any place. So now it's it's a nice little couples road trip. day and night across the state, nothing, and in the morning in Mexico. Are you waking up in Mexico? It's very romantic.
It almost sounds like, if you don't know what's happening in the song, you're just reading this part on paper. Like she runs through her day, she's happy, I wait, we can drive to any place. Like, it's a girl he's in love with, maybe she loves him too. He's gonna drive her to Mexico to propose or something. What's he waiting for? We don't know. Yeah. And then the next verse, you're like, oh no.
It's where it takes a turn. The first two verses are very short. They're clipped, they're very like rock and roll lyrics. And then the next two sort of get wild and woolly. They come faster. Obviously, there's a hell of a lot more words, a hell of a lot more ideas, and it gets real specific real quick.
Yeah.
I find a window in the kitchen where I let myself in.
Lovely. Not invited.
Yeah. Rummage through the refrigerator, find myself a beer. Yeah, that's what you do. I can't believe I'm really here. And she's lying in that bed. I remember the first time I heard this song. It was actually a couple of years after it came out. This would have been like 95 or 96.
Yeah.
And I just remember having it was a weird thing well, let's get through it first. I can't believe I'm really here and she's lying in that bed. I can almost feel her touch and her anxious breath. So he's obviously let himself into her house unannounced. He's going through her shit. He's going to get a little drunk and he just couldn't be more excited about it.
Uh-huh. If you're a girl listening to this, you're like, oh, okay, she's gonna get raped. Oh shit.
That's why I was really nervous about doing this song at the beginning, like months ago, because the first time that I talked to women about this song, like I was working at an Olive Garden, so these were Olive Garden waitresses and hostesses, and it was strange to me at the time, and still a little strange now, like how excited they were about this song.
Hot. It's weirdly hot. It's erotic. It's the idea of like someone who wants you really bad, and it's fucked up. I mean, this is rape fantasy shit. There's porn about this.
But obviously, it's a dude who wrote it. It's a dude who's singing it. So I wouldn't say that this is a dude fantasy, but obviously it's coming from the mind of a man, but it's connecting, or at least I saw it with my own eyes, connecting the minds of women in ways that I didn't expect, and I doubt that he expected too. It's strange.
Yeah.
The final lyric, I stumble in the hallway outside her bedroom door. And of course, you ever heard this song, you know that like his voice is getting throaty. It's really starting to pound.
It's the best
I hear
part.
her call out to me. I hear the fear in her voice. She pulls the covers tighter. I press against the door. And then the song ends with him howling, I will be with her tonight. I will be with her tonight. I will be with her tonight.
Yes. I remember my friend Jim in college, and this was in the early 2000s, talking about the part where he says, she pulls the covers tighter, I press against the door. And he was like, that is so erotic. And we only thought of the song for its eroticism. Being a woman, even though I was like, yeah, there's rape in the air, I still loved it and I got off to it.
Yeah, I couldn't understand it. Like when I first, like I say, I was 16 or 17 when I first heard this song and first started thinking about it in this way. And it was many, many years later before I felt like I had any, and I mean, you're going to have to help me out with it, but I guess the handle that I have on it is that, like, as a young man, when I was 16 or 17, I only thought of sex as just like, yes, please, absolutely. Like I was nervous around it, but excited for it, and would leap at any opportunity to get it. That's like male sexuality. I'd never really thought about how it works for women, and then I guess not like that, huh?
Naughty, dangerous sex is something you don't start discovering you might be into until later. It's not your teenage years,
Is it though? Like, I think I think in women, and this is why I didn't want to talk about it, because I'm just gonna say it, and if I'm being dude ignorant, you let me know.
All right.
But like, I think that like men are when we're young, when we're teenage boys, like we're nervous about sex because we don't know how to do it. We're shy. Are we going to be good enough? Like those sorts of things, right? But that's relatively easy to deal with compared to what women have to deal with, because ultimately, like I mean, down the road, you could get pregnant and have the ultimate responsibility for the fun that you've just had. But also, you've got to trust an animal that's bigger and stronger than you You don't know what he's going to ask you to do. You don't know what he's going to want. You don't know if the things, and then you've got the same set of things that we're worried about, where you don't know if you're going to be able to please them the way that they want. You don't know if you're going to be able to keep them happy. And I wonder if in women, if that sort of evolves, where you sort of sexualize the angst, if that makes any sense. Do you know what I mean?
Maybe. I mean, we've had evolution of years, and I mean, years, centuries and centuries of like where I think we just get knocked over the head and get raped and made babies. That's in us. And so part of it becomes like there's something hot about the overpoweringness of it too. It's like the women who want to be choked but not really, like, we just want your hand there but don't squeeze the esophagus. That's what the song feels like. It's like, might be getting raped but not really. It's a really good song and it jams.
Yeah. And I think like as a man, I can understand that on a level where it would really turn me on to be with a woman who was just like I have to have you. like it's difficult to talk about, but like men get to that point in a sexual encounter where it's just like, it's just gonna happen. Like that's just all like the
what's gonna
orgasm
happen
is going to happen.
Oh, got it.
I mean?
Okay.
Like yeah. And I wonder, like it would, because women don't necessarily work that way all the time, or like it would be very exciting for me if it did. Do you know what I mean? Like if there was a woman who was just like, Ben, you're gonna do this for me. I'm gonna like it. That's all there is to it. Get started.
So there's plenty of women out there that will do that. What I thought would be fun with this song, let me get to that page of my research, because I didn't think we'd get here that fast, but I want us to go through the lyrics again with a different frame of mind. So this is my #1 song that I fantasize singing karaoke. I love it, and I want to just belt it out karaoke. And I sing it alone in my car a lot, not just today. But when I'm singing it, I want to connect with the singer, like what he's going through. So I'll change the hymns to hers, and I imagine it in that world, because no one would ever think about the person in the song being a woman breaking into someone's house, going down the hallway and going into a man's room, because it's so rapey for the setup. But I'm like, there are crazy bitches out there, like that astronaut woman who drove and wore a diaper. I mean, women can get psycho. And so I wanted to think about these lyrics as like a woman who's obsessed with a guy and has, maybe he is afraid of her. Like she's pulled a knife on him before, like she's real crazy. And imagine like a woman singing this song. But so, God, I don't want to get all out of turn, but Todd Lewis does explain part of this, when he explains the song, he talks about like in Texas, if the guy was peeping through a window, he would see a gun rack because everybody in Texas is armed. And he's like, there's no way. But I'm imagining this woman crawling in the window anyway. And I rewrote the verse. So imagine a woman is sneaking in the window and she's, and it says, I found a window in the kitchen and I let myself in, rummaged through the gun case and found a Smith & Wesson. I can't believe I'm really here. And he's lying in that bed. And I just imagine the visual of her waking him up out of his sleep with a shotgun being like, we're going to Mexico. Like a psycho.
We're going to Mexico and I already drank your last beer.
So if you think about it that way, would that be hot to guys, or was it just a terrifying song?
That would be terrifying.
It doesn't work the other way.
That's probably the last chapter in a very erotic story.
Yes. Yes. It starts off with he found the girl, he's in love with her, they have crazy sex, and then she just starts getting legit crazy, and then that's how it ends. We're going to
we should point out that the Tyler in the title refers to the town Tyler, Texas.
Yes.
Tyler, Texas is the home of Jamie Foxx.
It's the home of my friend Lauren. I've been to her lake house plenty of times. Her parents' lake house.
Does she know Jamie Foxx?
I don't know. I'll ask her. Maybe her dad does.
The favorite son. I like the way that this, like I say, I like the way that the song works. It's short lyrics up at the top, and then the longer, wilder ones at the bottom. Because it's very, because I was fascinated by this song, and I would talk to anybody who would listen about it. And somebody once told me that they thought that it was about famous here, Ted Bundy. It was about Ted
Oh.
Bundy and the night that he tore through that sorority house in Florida.
No, that makes sense.
It made sense to me at the time, but when you actually like go through the lyrics, like this is clearly just, you know, one guy obsessed with one woman.
Yeah.
You know, there's not, that was a multiple homicide night. I know because I have Netflix.
And a pandemic.
And in a pandemic. But it's also like if you kind of take like a wider metaphorical view of it, it also works the way that a relationship works. Like in the first verse, they're meeting and there's that initial spark of intrigue, that initial spark of romance. In the second verse, they're driving to any place, they wake up in Mexico. So this is their first romantic adventure, or the relationship, you know, getting a little bit deeper. And then if you just decide that all of the creepy murdery stuff is just metaphorical and think of it as every other relationship that you've had, that's just what a relationship is. Like,
or it's just one drunken night.
Yeah, the next thing you know, you're just like you're just going through the fridge trying to make yourself happy. You're stumbling through the hallway towards the bedroom, and there can be that moment where you're just like, oh, you know, we're going to bed again.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's then, and whatever we've done, whatever, because as time goes by, obviously you build up grievances with each other and things that you're willing to forgive and things that you're willing to overlook, but you still take them to bed with you. Like they're still there.
Right.
Like you can find ways to forgive and forget, but that doesn't always, you can't do that instantly. You know, like
right.
it takes some time to do it. So you have those uncomfortable nights where maybe you are pulling the covers tighter because you're not in the mood to cuddle with this person tonight.
Yeah.
You know, like I wonder if metaphorically, if that's what he was kind of getting at, or if that's what people respond to. It's like, okay, this is outlandish and surreal, but.
Can you imagine a couple at the time hearing this song who's been on again, off again, and then got in a really bad fight where she locked him out, and he came home drunk and came in through the kitchen, kept drinking, and she's in bed like, fuck, he broke in, like he's here, and he's like ready just to be, I'm so sorry, and you know, take me back. I mean, imagine if Todd Lewis came back and said, no, that's what the song is about. You could read it that way, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's 100% there. And I do think that people respond to it. They respond to it to the way that it weaves itself in and out of it like that.
Yeah.
But that whole album has like Possum Kingdom is obviously a very creepy song as well. Like it's got the same kind of undercurrents to it. And I didn't know it, but there were like fans of the Toadies used to come to their concerts, and probably still do, like dressed as vampires.
Yeah,
like
it's very vampire-y. Very, very.
Yeah.
In the same way, and one day we're going to cover Total Eclipse of the Heart, which you and I did not know was a vampire musical, which blows my mind. We'll get there one day. I just don't know if I'm ready to accept that song was written as a vampire musical, but Possum Kingdom definitely sounds like a vampire thing.
Do you have the lyrics to Possum Kingdom in front of you?
I don't, but I want to say, like, okay, if we're going to talk about Possum Kingdom, to get the story right, you have to talk about I Burn first. So I'm just going to kind of read off my paper here, just so you can get the whole story, because it will dispel the vampire thing, but it's in the same vein. So in the film Dark Secrets, Todd told a story behind the song, and we're talking about I Burn. And he said, I was dating a girl and I had this dream that she had invited me to a party. So I'm going to the party, I'm walking down the street, and as I get closer to the party, there's a mailbox on fire. Then there's a trash can on fire. And then eventually there's just a whole house engulfed in flames. So I'm getting closer to the party and I get to this house and I kind of walk around the back where the party is. And there's all these people jumping around and dancing around. There's music, there's drums. You can hear the drums a lot in I Burn. And there's a giant bonfire, and one by one, the people are throwing themselves into the fire. The idea is that they were going to transcend their physical bodies by immolation. So they were going to burn themselves in order to become some higher power, something bigger outside the physical realm. And that's what I Burn is about. That's talking in the voice of somebody who was in a cult, or, you know, something, whatever you want to call that. So the character in this song is the one who haunts Possum Kingdom. He said, This is something I do a lot of times. I make up a character and carry it through several songs. I finished out I Burn and thought, suppose this guy does it and he's just screwed because now he's just smoke. And where does he go from there? So he goes to Possum Kingdom and tries to find someone to join him. So he's like this smoke spirit that just wants to kill and have someone with him, which is, Todd said he was reading a lot of Stephen King and a lot of dark, creepy stuff at the time. So he's a really good storyteller. I'm like, you should write horror books. I mean, this is really good.
Good. And also like Texas hippies, man. Like it ain't all peace and love.
Exactly.
That's what I like when I hear the Toadies songs and I picture the characters in them. I always picture Woody Harrelson.
Oh yeah.
Like, it just seems like a very not that Woody is this kind of guy, but these are the kind of characters that he would play. Like,
yeah.
And would it really be so bad if Woody Harrelson was peeking in your bedroom window, Dianne?
No, listen, I told you my family's from East Texas and my grandmother knew the Harrelson boys. It's either my grandmother or one of her friends used to babysit the Harrelson boys, Woody Harrelson.
Whoa.
And she said they were horrible children. Just bad kids.
They would have to be. So does she know his dad?
No. I mean, as far as I know, I just remember the story my grandmother saying the Harrelson boys were awful.
Do you know the story of Woody Harrelson's dad?
No.
You've never heard this story?
No. Are you gonna tell me?
Okay. Yeah, the quick and dirty is he's the only I believe he's still the only person who's ever been convicted in the United States of assassinating a federal judge.
Oh shit.
He did murder for hire stuff around Texas. That apparently wasn't the only one that he was involved with. And it's long been rumored that he was one of the 3 hobos on the train in Dallas that day in 1963. Ooh, the rumors. Yeah. So Woody Harrelson's dad is a convicted assassin. He did murder a federal judge, and he's rumored to be involved in the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
Oh, this is good. This is good stuff. I like where this episode has gone. We've covered so much Texas. Reverend Horton Heat, Woody Harrelson.
Dark Texas blood intrigue.
So I think that puts to rest the whole, like, everything about Rubberneck is rape and vampires, but like it's not rape. It's insinuates rape, maybe some kidnapping in Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have the lyrics to Possum Kingdom in front of me, but basically it sounds like, he's asking this girl, do you want to die? And I will treat you well, my sweet angel, so help me Jesus. And the part that makes it sound like a vampire, he's like, I can promise you'll stay as beautiful with dark hair and soft skin forever. And then he says it again, forever. Which is so like creepy, which immediately makes you think, Interview with a Vampire, which was also big at that time, Yeah.
I can't believe I never put the vampire stuff together, because that song was on 90 times a day in the mid-90s, and it's blatantly vampiric, and it never occurred to me.
No, it didn't it didn't occur to me either. To me, I was such a just like dumb self-involved teenager in the 90s, and I just thought about dark hair and soft skin, which I figured I had. And I was like, I'd love for a guy to say this to me. Like I didn't even care about the murder part. Apparently I just get turned on by whatever the Toadies say. And I don't think about the repercussions of what's going to happen to me in the end.
That's obviously why I was fascinated with the Toadies. I remember I was sitting, this is embarrassing, but I was sitting at a rockin' bowl on a Monday night with the whole restaurant crew. And like I was 16 or 17 years old. And there were 3 women who were talking about Tyler specifically, but the Toadies in general. And that's what they were talking about, was the idea of being the object of a guy's obsession, to the point where he would break into their house. Like they just found it crazy erotic.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's the bravado of youth, like young girls trying to, but I mean, I've run into it time and time again, even as an adult. Like I just don't know where it comes from.
It's fantasy fiction, because we all know the reality is we don't want to get raped. But the fantasy fiction of somebody wanting you so much, they would almost go to that length. So it makes me think of Paul Odo, past guest, good friend, best friends with my husband. they would have this thing where they would rate women on a hotness scale, and the hottest was
rate women with a T.
Rate.
A T. They would rate women. They would rank them.
My husband and Paul Otto, bad rapist. No, they would rate women, and the highest one was kidnap level. Kidnap and put in your dungeon level. Like, is she kidnap level hot? And I always would fuck with Corbin. I was like, I'm kidnap level hot, right? And he's just like, no, you don't understand. And I'm like, no, I do. Like, that's me, right? And he's like, no, you don't understand. Like, I know it's not me. I get what they're getting at, but I'm always just like, yeah, that's me. I'm that level hot, right? He's like, don't make me say it. No.
I said that before when I'm trying to be like the flirty, funny bartender, where like a woman will walk in and she's obviously like all dressed up to the nines. She's like, you are pretty enough to be kidnapped by the Sultan.
How's that all go over?
3 for 3 so far. But yeah, that's definitely one that could backfire. I also have another line that I don't say very often, but I like it much better because I'm an old guy. And so whenever somebody calls me sir, I always want to say, you don't have to call me sir until you're naked. Now.
That's really good.
That one's not gonna see the light of day. It's gonna have to be someone I'm familiar with. No, but yeah, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, the like kidnapping. That that makes a certain amount of sense. in a what was I gonna? I don't know. Would you? Is there what? How would you rank men? What's your top level? Your kidnap.
Oh God. Yeah, I can't even think on those terms because like when I rewrote the lyrics about the girl breaking into the gun safe, it's because a man can usually, generally speaking, overpower a woman with just sheer brute strength. A woman can't. So if we want to kidnap a man, we need a weapon. So I'm like, the question is, what level of hotness is a man where you actually get a gun and be like, we're going to Cancun, get in the car.
We need a weapon like poison or a vagina.
I'm going to stick with a Texas theme, and something about Matthew McConaughey would be like, just because he's always shirtless and abs, and he's Texas and he's familiar, and I'm like, I could kidnap him, I guess.
And it'd be easy to kidnap him. You just get a fishing rod and hook it up to his bongo drums and just reel him in from there.
It's like the Bugs Bunny character when he's following the smell of something good and he's floating in the air, and it's just the spleef I'm smoking, like, and it just like, come to me, Matthew, and then I bonk him on the head and we go to Cozumel.
This is controversial, but I really think that McConaughey is faking the whistle part of his accent.
Oh, you think
I think his actual accent makes sense, but the whistle part, I can't even do it. Like, like on the S's, he's got that's been recent. That's like the last 5 years when McConaughey has decided to become a Texas legend.
Oh yeah.
Can I really work my way into Willie Nelson territory? He wouldn't dare think that in the early 2000s, but present day Matthew McConaughey, he's not in Willie Nelson territory, but he can put on the binoculars and see it from there. He's
forward thinking. Yeah, I see what you're saying. We forgot to do this, and I think it's important for the listeners. Going back to Tyler and the what Todd Lewis says about why he wrote Tyler, because everybody just we've all come up with our ideas and rape fantasies. So this is how it started. I'm just going to read. My grandparents lived in East Texas, I'm guessing Tyler, where my dad grew up on a farm, and we would go visit them for the holidays. Inevitably, around the table, they would start talking about what's going on, and one of the conversations turned into some guy who had been spotted running around these farmhouses in East Texas and peeking through windows, and how he's probably going to break into a house sooner or later and nab somebody or do something terrible. I look over at the window. Yeah, that'd be creepy if a guy peeked in. Then I look over the other way and there's a rifle rack with 8 shotguns on it. I'm thinking every one of these houses is armed to the teeth. These people stay alive, they hunt, and they protect their property. And I just went, there's no way this guy's for real. Then years later, I was thinking back on that and thinking, well, I think that was just some hysteria going on, but what if the guy was real, and what would he be thinking and what would he do? And so that's what I wrote Tyler about. This guy whose thought process of being in love with somebody, so in love that he would go risk life and limb just to be with this person.
Mm.
Yeah. And that's
I
hot.
think what amazes me about it is like he was in his 30s when he wrote this song. Like I think part of the reason why he was so restrained when he got his record deals because he's older than most people
Oh, yeah, he
who would get
wasn't
that.
like some 19-year-old.
Yeah, like I think like the Rubberneck was released in 1994 and he was born in 1965, so he would have been 29, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
29 or 30. So enough time has passed that he's not going to be like that jubilant. But that's what really struck me about specifically about Todd Lewis is usually when I'm like watching interviews with really successful and really talented people, their egos, or what I think of as their ego, can be really intimidating to me because like it takes that kind of it's the old like Bill Clinton joke where if you see a tortoise on a fence post, it didn't get there by accident, right?
Right.
like there's nobody because it takes so much. You have to throw so many elbows and so many punches to get to the top of a mountain like that. Like there's just no nice guys up there. But it really seemed to me that Todd Lewis was a nice guy. Like he just seemed incredibly. I couldn't believe that story he was telling, like to going to his record store. Like I'll be back in 6 months.
Yeah.
And it seems like I bought it. Like I totally. It didn't seem like celebrity bullshit. It seemed like this is. It seemed like a guy like I know enough about music, the way the music industry works, and I've read enough musical biographies to know that I'm not going to be Mick Jagger. I'm not going all the way to the top here.
You got an angry dog. Does that work? You just point at her?
It worked. It seemed to work this time. She's not really settling down. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
But I was reading this thing. I saw it in a meme. Apparently, when Lady Gaga was going to university, I think in New York, I could be wrong about that, but there was a private like Facebook group called whatever her name is, like Stephanie Germanata or something like that, and it was just like, "Dear Stephanie Germanata, you will never be famous." So it's like everybody that she came in contact with in college was so annoyed by her because she must have just been so focused on like learning to play music, learning to write music, learning to dance, and probably showing off that golden voice of hers every chance they would get. That people were just so pissed off. There's like, it's never going to work for you.
We hate it when our friends become successful.
Exactly. It's just that. It's just amazing. It was amazing to me to find that this Todd Lewis fellow was as well grounded as he was.
He's wonderful. I do want to add this one part. We talk about this a lot on the podcast, and we've asked, musicians like my friend Michelle about writing songs. And, sometimes do you have it all mapped out, or do you just don't know what to say in certain lines? And so about getting the beer out of the fridge, okay, so I'll just read what he says. Why does the guy in the song rummage through the refrigerator and find a beer? Todd says, there's a moment sometimes when you're writing where you're like, I don't have any idea what this line is going to be. I've got these lines before it and these lines after it, and I've got no line to go with this one. I'm thirsty, so he's going to get a beer now, and that's what he's going to do. So in the writing of this song, he's stuck on a line, and he goes to get himself a beer, and then he's like, yeah, I'll just put that in. And it's so crazy to me that he didn't give it much thought, but I'm like, it goes with the song. It really
works. Yeah, because it shows that the character has just like, he's in complete control of the situation. Like he's got complete confidence. He's not nervous about being in the house at all. He's going to crack a beer and he's going to do what he came to do.
That blew my mind when I read that he's just like, I need a filler line. And I was like, you don't know how important that line is to this song. It really maps out the security of the psycho in this character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's frightening. I don't know if we've talked about it before, but like this song always makes me think of the bookstore aisle of Walmart.
Why?
Because it's full of nothing but true crime novels for women. It's just like, first of all, Walmart is assuming that women are the only people who are going to read in America, and secondly, it also assumes that they only want to read about either who wants to kill them or who they want to kill. And that's it. Like, it's really, that is fascinating to me because it's a complete mystery. It's like, it's just not something that we talk about. Like, you can say rape fantasy and people sort of know what you're talking about, but that's usually about as far as that conversation goes, because who really wants to have that conversation?
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's funny. I wish you had been like a music critic journalist back in the 90s, because I feel like that's how you would have started your paragraph about Rubberneck, about this is a Walmart aisle fantasy. But meant it in a very good way. You were dogging on the band. Hey, did I already mention that it's the day that we're recording this is officially Toadies Day in Fort Worth? Did we already talk about that?
Did not mention that. No.
Yeah,
I didn't know they had a day.
I was looking, and like they posted on their Instagram the proclamation, and I couldn't zoom in to read what it said or why, but there's some festival going on right now, and all the proceeds go to this I think it's like a poverty shelter. And I feel like if I'm going to do this, let's do this. Let's mention what it's for. Fort Flannel. I know this is great podcasting, but I want to get it right because it's probably important. And maybe, okay, you guys just go to the Toadies, and it's just the Toadies on Instagram. And I think maybe they can give you links if you want to donate money to some of this, these charities. I think that would be helpful, and the Toadies would enjoy that. They also have a lot of cool merch. I'm going to put the photo up on our Instagram, but they have these great ugly sweater. Well, it's not ugly. It's actually really cool. And I have a picture of Corbin wearing one. It's like a big Christmas sweater that says the Toadies across it, really big. And the last concert we went to, we went with Sara Talamash. We saw the Toadies at White Oak, and I wanted Corbin to wear it, but it was just not cold enough outside. Oh. Good old Houston for you. It's never cold enough to wear a big sweater. This is probably a good place to drop in our 6 Degrees of Tommy Stinson with Jeremy Essig. So let's see how he connected the Toadies to the Replacements drummer, Tommy Stinson.
Happy New Year, Barflies. I'm taping this week's edition of 6 Degrees from the sound booth of Helium Comedy Club in Indianapolis. So for anyone who listens to these on YouTube, it'll be without the usual visual jokes, and also my lighting's pretty bad, so we're now going to go to the title card. All that will be back next week when I'm in my studio. That said, we're starting off the year by connecting Tommy Stinson to the Toadies, a band I knew almost nothing about before researching this to find out they were a group of former record store employees, much like myself, and fronted by a guy named Vader Danger Todd Lewis, much unlike myself, as my middle name is George. I don't want to persevere on this name thing too much, but on his Wikipedia, the Danger part is not listed as a nickname, but rather part of his birth name, which makes me like this band infinitely less than I did 5 minutes ago. And to continue with the fun with names, after Vader Danger left the Toadies, he formed a band, the Burden Brothers, with Reverend Horton Heat drummer Patrick Bentley, who is professionally known as Taz. Yes, guys named Vader Danger and Taz have a band, and I've never wanted to go more Comiskey Park Disco Demolition Night on an album I've never heard or planned to. Anyways, Taz has also played drums on solo albums by Izzy Stradlin, whose previous Charlie Quintana also played with Cracker, as did Tommy Stinson on the album Gentleman Blues. I realize it would have been quicker to use Izzy Stradlin to Guns N' Roses, but we used Guns N' Roses last week, and this allows me to recommend the Faces Stonesy fun of Stradlin's first solo album, Izzy Stradlin and the Juju Hounds. So, Vader Danger to Taz, to Izzy, to Charlie Quintana, to Cracker, to Tommy Stinson. See y'all next week. Back to Dianne Ben.
And we're back.
The Replacements drummer, Tommy Stinson, was raped in a trailer park in East Texas by Toadies lead singer Todd Lewis.
Who knew how crazy this was gonna get?
Just a little bit of jealousy.
All right, before we do our dressed up like a douche, do we have more on Tyler, or did we cover it?
I think that about covers the creepiness.
I love it. And oh my God, if anybody's listening to this and they don't know this music, I demand that you go and download all of Rubberneck. And then there's their newest album. I don't know if it's the newest I know of. It's called Heretics. And they do a cover of Heart of Glass by Blondie. And it's so good, Ben. I almost prefer it to the original. It's a very different way of hearing that song, and it's very slow.
That is heresy. I'm sure it's fantastic. It can't be anywhere near as good as the original. Just can't be.
You got to listen to it. But there's another song that Corbin got me hooked on. It's called The Appeal, and it's this retchingly sad song. It makes me cry every time I listen to it. And when you listen to it, you think every love love song is about a man speaking to a girl, but this is a song he wrote to his father, who he never really saw eye to eye with, and it's heart-wrenching, and he's making this final appeal to tell him how he feels, even though they don't see eye to eye. And to anyone who has any father issues, oh my God, this will rip your heart out. It's so, please listen to
We
that.
didn't even talk about that, because his dad was a preacher, right? He was Southern Baptist.
I know that he grew up in a very religious family. I didn't do enough research to find out what his dad. I mean, I know that Backslider is specifically about growing up in a very religious household,
in a religious home, and then literally backsliding. But then also, like, I didn't realize it at the time. I didn't know who his father was, but I mean, clearly, I come from the water, which I thought was just kind of like a cutesy little acknowledgement of where we all come from, but absolutely wasn't to him. Like that's him pretty specifically saying, I don't believe what you believe, Dad.
Well, he said that his dad is a Christian who also believes in evolution, which is interesting. You don't get a lot of that. And also, I want to say this, his song Away, which always kind of confused me a little bit, but until I heard him explain it, where he says, when I'm away in my heart, I've had too many.
In my heart, there is a heaven.
In my heart, I know in my heart, there is a heaven. And he said people have misunderstood those lyrics. He's not saying in my heart, I know heaven exists. He's saying if there's a heaven, it's inside me. It's the peace within my own heart. And that's what he means when he says that. And I'm like, that makes more sense. Because I didn't see him as being Christian in that way.
I wonder if that's him being a rock and roll lyricist, though, or if that really is like a mistake that he made. If he was just like, if he's deliberately leaving that wide open to interpretation, or if after getting the feedback, he was just like, fuck, listen.
The way he explains it is that's how he wrote it with the vocabulary he had at the time. I think if he were to rewrite that song today, he could probably rearrange those words to say it the way he wants us to hear it a little better. That's my guess. I don't know. That's what this podcast is about, is our assumptions.
I wonder if 55-year-old Todd Lewis wants to sneak into bedrooms as badly as 30-year-old Todd Lewis.
I think Todd Lewis found himself in a good place now. I think, and he admits that during the making of Rubberneck, he was very angry. There's lots of guttural screaming, which we all loved in the 90s. That's what grunge was all about. I don't follow him religiously, but I've looked at his Instagram a little bit and I'm like, I think Todd's in a better place.
And that's where I think we should leave him.
All right. Our Dressed Up Like a Douche this week comes from Charity Williams. I can't believe I didn't find this one for our Tori Amos episode, but the song Concertina, the lyric is, I run into your thoughts from across the room. And Charity says, after all these years, I still hear, I run into your fart from across the room. And if that just isn't a summary for marriage, I don't know what it is.
It's a horrible moment of intimacy.
And also I don't know what happened to my dog, Maggie, last week. She got into something or ate something she shouldn't have, to the point where I almost had to take her to the vet. Her farts didn't just stink up a room. It was the whole house. We had to open up windows and doors in the garage. We're like, Maggie. And they were loud. Dogs usually have silent farts. She's such a fat little sausage, and she would just be sleeping and just kind of rolling herself over. And it was like, bark. Like it was loud dog farts. And then the smell, we were like, Maggie, are you dying? What happened? I actually called my vet and I had to leave a message like, can we help her? Is she in pain?
Can we get a copy of that recording? How do you make that phone call with a straight face?
I literally was telling the receptionist who had to relay the message to my doctor. I was like, look, I know dogs fart, but this is not normal. This is out of control. I think my dog's in pain. So, yeah.
No.
All right. So we don't have a Dressed Up Like we don't have a guilty pleasure song this week because we don't have a guest, unless you happen to have one.
No, I don't. I didn't put a guilty pleasure together.
Oh, you don't have to. I think we're out. I just said from now on, when it's just us, if you happen to think of one, then we'll have one. I actually thought of one the other day, but I forgot to write it down. So it'll come back one day.
It's all right. They're all out there.
So let me tell you what we're doing next week, because I don't even think I've told you, Ben. Next week is a Patreon vote week. So now on the odd numbers, it'll be, episode 51, we will have a guest and it will be a Patreon vote week. So next week, we will have very funny comedian Kelly Collette joining us, and we are going back to Pink Floyd. I know we've already done Wish You Were Here with John Wessling, but Kelly wants to talk some more Pink Floyd. So she put up these 3 songs for the Patreon members to vote on. So they're going to be voting on Comfortably Numb, Brain Damage, and The Great Gig in the Sky. So
all right. I'm ready for more Pink Floyd.
Yeah, me too. I mean, you can't ever get enough Pink Floyd. I mean, we could slowly just do every song from The Wall and Dark Side of the Moon. It'd be great.
Let's do that one high, man.
I might can do that.
I may not do that.
Yeah, it won't be good on my end. It'll be a lot of me like thinking for like 20 seconds and then be like, what were we talking about? I don't do well.
Let's do a high segment.
Ooh, what a disaster. Well, happy Toadies Day. I mean, by the time you guys hear it, it won't be Toadies Day anymore, but today is Toadies Day. And I'm so glad we actually did a Toadies episode for our 50th episode on Toadies Day in Fort Worth.
Congratulations, we did it. 5-0. Also, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody. Let's make 2021 a much better year.
We'll see you soon.
Vogue.
Vogue.